Well, hi.
Hello again. We are live again. Dead and
We
Company's
are.
on tour in Atlanta.
And we couldn't be happier. The great city of Atlanta, Georgia, and the second night of the second leg of the tour, and boy, those boys, you could say they either didn't grow any cobwebs during the break or the rest did them a lot of good or whatever, because they got right back to it last night with another fantastic show. And they've always played well in Atlanta. I saw them at the Omni and other places down there, and it's a good Grateful Dead town and a good Dead and Company town. So looking forward to another one tonight.
This is one particular show that I really wish I could be at. I have so many friends in Atlanta who are going to be there tonight, and I would love to be with them. Looking forward to seeing
Yeah.
some familiar faces in the crowd shots. We're here pitching the live stream that's available to you on nugs.net. And the place to find out more about it is livedead.co. That is your portal to nugs.net's coverage of Dead and Company. They have a library of audio recordings that goes back to 2016. You can get a season pass for this whole second leg of the tour, which is 13 shows, and if you did that today, you could still go back and watch last night's show as well. So that's one of the things about the season pass is you get the whole season. And once you look at one particular show, you have 48 hours to watch it as many times as you want. And we're going to also be with you at the beginning of the second set. Again, nugs.net is going to be offering a free sample of the show, the first song or two of the second set on YouTube and on Facebook. And Gary and I will be back between sets. Today, we're going to be talking with Gavin Tabone, who is the director of the Barton Hills Choir, a grade school outfit from Austin, Texas, that has made 2 records of Grateful Dead songs. And he's got a fun story to tell.
Yes, indeed. And as we said, we both love Atlanta. The band always rises to the occasion in Atlanta. And they sure did in Charlotte last night, too. That second set, man, starting with Scarlet Begonias, and they did not go right into Fire on the Mountain. What did they go into? I don't have my set list in front of me, so it was an interesting divergence there.
They're
That's
just
how you know it was a good show.
jam-packed. Their shows with. Wait a minute, I can tell you. I have it on my computer right here in front of me. It was that bird song at the end of set 1 was nothing to complain about. It was Scarlet Begonia's Uncle John's Band with an awesome
That's
jam
right.
in the middle of it. And then they
Yes.
launched into Fire on the Mountain with Oteil Burbridge on the lead vocals. Terrapin, drums, space, New Speedway Boogie, Black Peter, and Casey Jones. And the encore, the quick encore was Ripple. They must have been up against the curfew because they didn't stay off stage for long before the encore.
They didn't leave stage at all, as a matter of fact. Bobby just turned right to the. Bobby is the master of timing these things to 10:59 and 50 seconds on an 11 p.m. curfew. He's really, like he likes to say, like a Swiss watch as far as the timing of the sets goes. And hey, Oteil Burbridge revealed something interesting today. I suspected it was the case. He's been sitting down during long portions of these shows. He's got a stool back by his amps, and he revealed he's had like a fairly severe back problem, like one very messed up vertebra that's been giving him some pain for some time. And I've noticed, even when he's standing, he's a little less animated. Sometimes Oteil dances the whole night, but here he's been taking it a little bit easy, but hasn't affected the music one little bit or his playing.
It has not. And, oh my God.
Yeah, so he thanked everyone for their concern. He says that with, he's a long way from needing surgery or anything like that, and he thinks physical therapy will definitely get him through the remainder of the tour. And he's got a bunch of music coming up this fall too, I noticed. So he's got some gigs coming up in Colorado. So you can't keep Oteil down for very long, and he doesn't even like to sit for that long. He gets up and and plays whenever he can.
Oh, very true.
Thanks, Oteil.
I had a group in my living room yesterday that included Blair Jackson and Regan McMahon, our friends Deb and Susan. And Susan was a non-Deadhead and fairly new to this whole thing. And it was very interesting to experience someone else's first experience of all this. And one of the things that she remarked on was Oteil, the loveliness of his singing voice. And everybody loves to watch Oteil's hands on the video feed. He's just such a graceful dude, and watching him play, watching them all play is like that. I love watching Jeff Clementi play too.
Yeah. And with Oteil, there's always some new melodic line he'll come up with on the bass, some beautiful bit of counterpoint that will be totally unexpected in the context of this music. Obviously Phil Lesh created bass lines like no one else in the world. Oteil's doing that in his own way and serving the music in an equally valid way and a completely different one. So that's, as Don Was said when we interviewed him at our very first halftime show, the secret of this is to play like yourself and bring the best of yourself to the music. And as Don beautifully put it, not be haunted by the specter of Phil.
So true. This tour has just progressed so amazingly well. With these musicians are really, really starting to fill in some of the arrangements and stuff, and these songs are starting to develop, sort of tropes of their own that are the work of these people rather than inheriting everything from the Grateful Dead. And I particularly was thinking about Lost Sailor the other day, or a couple of weeks ago now, listening to what John Mayer has done with it, where he's recognizing and remembering and using some of the material that Jerry Garcia created on the guitar in that song, but he's also starting to come up with a lot of ideas of his own and textures of his own that we're hearing in there. And that's also true. Obviously, the dialogue with Jeff Clementi is like that, but it's also true with Oteil. I noticed it last night. He's starting to put down some of his markers in these songs as well. And it's lovely to hear the evolution of the ensemble, with these songs.
Yeah, and the fact that you've got three of the guys who invented the music and three people who are coming from very different backgrounds and bringing something new every time they play it really has revitalized this repertoire in incredible ways. Our backstage surveillance team tells us they have a few band members out on stage ready to go on. A few could be as few as one or as many as five, but they need six. They need this isn't where you have call a quorum and go out there with five guys. You really have to have the whole band. So the stragglers will be up there soon, I suspect. And we will get that abrupt signal that says lights, and we'll throw it to the stage when we can. But in the meantime, once again, we are here through the good graces of nugs.net. We're so happy they gave us this gig to introduce these shows and then do this halftime show. It's been a ball. We've got 11 more after tonight, and going to make the most of it, I'll tell you. So once again, as David laid out, if you're watching this for free on the preview and you like what you see, you can go back and purchase the whole show or the whole tour, and tell your friends that this stuff is available. Turn them on YouTube or on Facebook Live to these free previews, which includes our halftime show. The preview of the second set does include our little bit and our talk with Gavin Tabone later on. And then you can, if you crave more, it's easily had through livedead.co.
And they also have a new streaming service. Nugs has a new streaming service that you can subscribe to. I haven't taken a look at it to see how it works, and I don't really do like Spotify or whatever, but I gather it's that same kind of thing that gives you access to this vast library. For example, they have all the Dead and Company shows going back to 2016. They have huge amounts of music from vast numbers of musicians. And if you get that subscription service, I guess you have access to an awful lot of that music. And that's another one of the reasons we'd like you to go over to livedead.co and find out what the options are. You can download any individual audio recording in a number of formats. They have like super high res, I think 9624, and they have CD quality, and they have MP3s and stuff, and you can get individual shows or whole tours and stuff in audio only form. And of course, they have all of these video live streams and recent shows archived on video that you can still watch. So please do visit livedead.co. They asked us here to talk to you and ask you to do that.
Right, indeed. And, I'm a very eclectic music fan myself. So the service Nugs provides, I mean, in addition to all this, they sell, archival recordings by great bands a la carte. They've got a contract with Bruce Springsteen right now, and they've been doing this instant download thing after Bruce Springsteen shows when he's on tour.
Oh,
And
cool.
they've been supervising his archival releases from the breadth of his
Well,
career. They have
lots
stuff
of
going back to 1975. Another of my favorite bands, Wilco, is part of it. So I feast on the banquet that is Nugs.net a whole lot, spending a lot of time at their buffet table. So enjoying it a lot.
And we should also mention that the audio service is very prompt. We have been told, and I have witnessed it myself, because I go after the show and download the audio so I can pull the stuff that I need for my radio shows. And these shows are very often ready to download like a half an hour to an hour after the show is over. That's pretty damn good service. And I mean, the technology is ridiculous these days. But the quality of the work done by these people is really spectacular. It's an impressive thing that Nugs.net has a remote recording unit out there, and they're mastering and distributing this music in ridiculously good quality, and well worth checking out. I've been really enjoying. I've listened back to most of these concerts after they've happened because, as I say, I'm pulling stuff from my radio shows, and the quality of the recordings is terrific. We are told the band are all on stage huddling now, so we expect the lights to go down soon.
Right. Whether it'll be a run or a pass play to open up, we don't know, but they are huddled. So we'll see what's going to happen. We don't know what the first song is going to be. We have been going set list free for these shows. They used to provide us with set lists, but we kind of like the suspense. We kind of like being surprised along with you. They do tip us off when the set is ending, so we know to be back to work. But other than that, we are experiencing these shows as you are, in real time, and really delighted with the way the band has been mixing it up. So
Yes,
I guess they're still
a few
huddling.
weeks ago, they fooled us. They ended a set with "Don't Ease Me In," which is historically a very short song, and I figured I had like 3 minutes to get upstairs and get ready to do this halftime thing. And instead, they stretched that sucker out and played a 10-minute version of "Don't Ease Me In" to end their first set a few weeks ago. Again, that's one of the things that we're getting here from the Dead and Company is a lot of surprises, musical delights coming from these people, combinations of songs you hadn't heard before, and just really, really smart, attentive, soulful, generous musicians out there having the time of their lives for our amusement.
Yeah, that's really one wonderful thing, finding new places in the music to create new improvisational statements. John really stretched out again on the solo on Casey Jones last night. Not the solo in the middle of the song, but when they're singing the Driving That Train refrain at the end, they usually come to the end and do that "and that notion" tag. But before they did that, they backed off from the mics, and John ripped off some serious choruses of bluesy guitar, just right in his wheelhouse, just the way that song, the changes of that song go.
And then in the encore, he came out and played this really, really beautiful stuff emulating David Grisman's mandolin on
Yes.
Ripple. And also just played really, really sweet stuff. They opened up coming out at the bridge and going back into the song. Bobby, as he tends to do, inserted a few new measures of music there. And John has filled those spaces with really, really sweet little obligatos. I took note of that last night, how what Mayer is doing in Ripple is definitely developing in his own direction in a really good way.
Yeah, the mandolin emulation is one of my favorite things there, because David Grisman's part on that was just, it was one of the things that made that song on the original recording. So anyway, that's one long huddle the band is taking. They must really be...
I'll tell you one thing that they're going to say when they come out of that huddle. They're going to say, "David, you go long."
Right.
I always had to go long on football games because I wasn't a very good football player.
I'm sorry. But anyway.
It's all right. I got over it. I found my métier.
Right. Well, this is a band that knows how to go long anyway. So, Their detractors would say too long, but not us. Anyway,
No. So
really
we're
looking
doing
forward
that
to
thing.
this.
We're vamping here. Wait.
Yeah. Sometimes they cut us right. Whoop, lights. Whew.
There we go. See
Enjoy
you
the
at
show,
halftime,
everybody. Well, they've gone and done it again, haven't they?
Gary texted our little group and said, they could just end right here with Let It Grow and it'd be fine. And then I looked at the clock and said, no, they got time to kick a little more ass with that deal. So they did.
And so they did. Indeed.
Let me just run down the set real quick. Shakedown Street, Cold Rain and Snow, Ramble on Rose, an up tempo. They love each other. Old school, baby. Except he didn't put the bridge in.
There's a story behind that, too.
High Time, Let It Grow, and Deal. What a set. What a powerful set.
Man, that Shakedown Street kind of exemplified everything we were talking about before the show about how these guys, the new guys in the band, infuse the music with something new. The Jeff's command of that kind of R&B Fender Rhodes piano playing and Oteil's mastery of funk, and John was doing that falsetto Marvin Gaye kind of thing on the final vamp. Just totally killed me. And this past Sunday on our radio show, Tales from the Golden Road, we had a caller rhapsodizing about the 1973 arrangement of They Love Each Other, the much more up-tempo one, and saying he always preferred that one and wondered if Dead & Company would ever bring it back. And talk about instant gratification. I mean, I actually have sent text to a couple of our backstage reconnaissance team to see if that was coincidence or if we caused it. Anyway, we'll find out. Maybe before the set is
We
over.
do know that John Mayer listens to us occasionally, and I know he was listening on Sunday because he responded to my fundraising pitch. Let me get that done before we move on and introduce our guest. Yesterday, if you were tuning in, you noticed that I talked about Robin Sylvester, the wonderful bass player of Rat Dog, who's had severe health problems for quite a while, and they've really come to a head this year. I have been a fan of Robin's for a long time, and I've been a collaborator of Robin's many times in the last 20 years. We played music. He's played on a bunch of my records and stuff. So I have a personal stake in Robin's health, as well as just a tremendous amount of compassion for a great musician who really needs some help. So I am passing the hat. I'm collecting money. We've already raised more than $24,000, but we're kind of hoping to get somewhere up close to $100,000 because Robin needs 24-hour care right now. And that's probably going to go on for a few months. So if you're looking at this on your screen, you'll see a link to paypal.me/truefunddonations. You can send any amount there. Every cent that comes into that account is being passed along to Robin. And I really, really appreciate your support. So let's get back to our broadcast here. We have today another good friend of mine, a very interesting fellow. He's the director of the Barton Hills Choir, a grade school vocal ensemble from Austin, Texas, that has made 2 records of Grateful Dead songs. And I had the great privilege of playing on a little bit of it and playing gigs with him. Please welcome Gavin Tabone to Dead Air. Hi.
Hey, everybody. Great to be here.
Hey, Gavin. Great to have you. I have been a great fan of Barton Hills Choir since David first turned me on to it a few years back, and have very much enjoyed the videos. I've seen the choir live, I think, one time, and I hope to see him more one of these days. We should talk about how this wonderful idea came into being, because I love hearing little children discover Grateful Dead music and develop a love for it. It means we'll have gigs for a long time, for one thing. But anyway,
well, it's funny that you brought up that They Love Each Other version, because we do that upbeat version and we do the bridge. And when I arrange Grateful Dead tunes for the kids, one of the things I look for is an interesting form. When there's sections of a song, it helps the kids, there's different movements I can put in, maybe one section has a harmony, one section has a solo. So sections are really important. And that bridge just really makes it when the choir sings it. But man, Dead & Company absolutely killed it tonight. I was just blown away. I'm looking forward to the second set. But yeah, I would say 4 or 5 years ago, the choir was doing just, basic, classic rock tunes. We did a lot of Beatles, a lot of Mamas and Papas, you name it. And I've always been really into the Grateful Dead, and I have Grateful Dead posters all over my classroom at school. And one of the third graders came into my room for music class and said, Mr. Tabone, I'm learning a Grateful Dead song on guitar. And I was like, which one? He said, Touch of Grey. And I was just like, man, that would be a great song to do with the kids. And with those third graders, I arranged it, just kind of put it together a little bit. And then the fifth grade choir came in that afternoon for rehearsal. They had a show about a week away, and we worked it out. I taught it to the band, and Dave, Mr. Gans will testify to this. It's all, we have to change the key to, for the kids' voices. But we performed it in the cafeteria that Friday, and we videoed it and posted it on our Facebook page. And at that time, we had a couple hundred people following the page. This is back in 2015, 2016. And the next day, I get a text from the guitar player, and he says, Gavin, have you seen the views on your Touch of Grey video on Facebook? And, I wasn't checking like every hour like I do now with the Barton Hills Choir Facebook page. But I checked it, and it had like 30,000 views or something in a matter, of 8 to 10 hours. I was like, what the hell's going on here? And I clicked on the shares, and the Grateful Dead page had picked it up and shared it. And it kind of just snowballed from there. We did Ripple about a month after that, and that one really got a lot of play. And we, obviously I'm a big fan of your show, so I contacted David Gans, and we flew David down to Austin, and we since then we've gone to different cities and performed with different cover bands, different Grateful Dead cover bands. I bring some kids with me, and that's kind of what we've been doing besides the local shows. And we've been making some CDs of Dead tunes.
You have two full CDs of Dead songs. Are those available for people? Can they get them now?
So the way I do CDs, we don't sell them. We give them away. So I'd say once every month or so, I'll post on the Facebook page. I'll say, hey, if you want a free CD, just message the choir your name and address, and I send one to that person for free. People donate stamps.
Right.
They donate envelopes. Everything kind of gets donated. So actually, we're actually buying bulk, hundreds of CDs for us to give away. So that's kind of what we've been doing for the CDs. Yeah, really good.
Well, they're the CDs are wonderful. I got to play on a couple of tracks. It's just been lovely to see this thing developing, and how wonderful the response is. So many people just love seeing these kids up on a riser singing these songs and waving their hands around and stuff. I mean, you really put a lot of energy and creativity into it. And I have just loved being on that stage. Hey, Jacob, can you show one of those photos that I sent you? I have so enjoyed being on stage with you guys, and just watching over, turning to my right and looking at the kids, and just watching their faces doing this has been such a delight.
That's our first show together.
All right, wasn't that in Austin just before the Great Deadco show we saw down there?
Yeah, I think that must have been
December
2017. Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah,
we had a bunch of Deadheads. Yeah, we had a bunch of Deadheads of they came. Our show was at like 1:00 in the afternoon. I think Dead & Co played at like 7 that night. So and our show was free. So a bunch of Deadheads came to our show, and at the end of the show, they were throwing. You'll see a rose by my foot there. They were throwing flowers on stage. People were just like freestyle, like twirling, down like on the floor. It was great, fantastic show.
Well, I've had the greatest time. I got to play the Brooklyn Bowl with you guys, and we got to play outside of Wrigley Field in front of the Dead & Company shows a couple of summers ago, and we played a festival out in Wyoming. It's just a huge undertaking. And do you have plans for the future with this group? You doing more gigs out there?
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm working with a very small alumni group. They're all 13 to 18. They're all vaccinated. It's just really safe. When we do shows, we all get tested. We just did a show in Dallas with a group called Forgotten Space, a fantastic Grateful Dead cover band in Dallas. Over the summer, we went to Denver and played with a band called Shakedown Street. They're also great. And yeah, we're just, chugging along. And we're going to do a couple shows in Austin. And then in March, we're going to go to Maine and perform with the Maine Dead Project out in Portland, which is going to be a lot of fun. So we're still doing it.
I have performed. I got a lot of friends up in Maine that I will send out to that. I played a gig with the Maine Dead Project in that venue. That's going to be a lot of fun for you. So you told me that the best place for people to follow the Barton Hills Choir is to go to your Facebook page for the Barton Hills Choir, right? That's where the most current info is?
I would say so. Yeah. And the website, those are the two main places, but Facebook, I'm monitoring, like I said, usually hourly because, it's a kids group. And unlike on YouTube, I can put it where comments need to be approved by me before they get posted. You can't do that on Facebook. So I'm constantly monitoring it. And my wife is taking a picture of me right now. Hey, yeah, Facebook is the best place. And you can message the choir. And that's kind of how I do the CD giveaways too. And hopefully these shirts are going to be for sale soon. Yeah.
And there's still there's also an active Barton Hills Choir YouTube feed, I believe, so people can go and see the videos of the group in action, both in performance and also some of the really nicely shot videos you've done, which are beautifully. They look so polished and terrific. I mean, these kids are they're just so natural, in their performance of this stuff.
Let me interrupt and put in a good word for Gavin's skills as a video editor, because we did some distributed events where I played and sang along with the part and sent my recording into him, and he did that with a bunch of different kids and stuff. So you're looking at the screen on all of these performances that were separately recorded, and Gavin stuck them together and made them into this coherent thing. You have really good skills.
That's why I don't have any hair anymore. Yeah, I'm just pulling the hair out during those are not easy videos to make. And we got really lucky with those remote virtual COVID sessions, I like to call them. Jeff Comenti played on one, Rob Koritz from Dark Star Orchestra, of course, David Gans. We've just been very fortunate on having amazing musicians play on those recordings. A lot of time, Deadeye is a great Austin Grateful Dead tribute band, and we've been fortunate to have those guys play with us too. It's great on a lot of those I don't even play. I let the professionals take over. I just kind of put it all together. But we've been very, very fortunate with that kind of stuff.
I just speaking personally, I have enjoyed so much being part of your thing and just enjoyed listening to it, even on the ones that I'm not involved in. Just wonderful stuff.
Yes. Hey, can I offer a brief, entertaining digression? I think you'll enjoy this. I texted John Mayer backstage to ask about that version of They Love Each Other. And since we know he listens to our radio show, I asked if he happened to be listening on Sunday, and if that may have inspired this arrangement. He said, I can honestly say that this was a version I always wanted to do and hadn't heard the Tales mention. I called it about 5 seconds before we did it, set into the talkback up-tempo version, and everyone nodded, and off we went. Wow. They didn't sound check that. They didn't rehearse that. That was in the moment. So my awe of these guys only increases. Thanks, John.
Fantastic.
That's really a wonderful story. And that, in Phil Lesch's autobiography, he talked about the human gestalt, that those guys were trying to be, as he put it, the fingers on a hand. They wanted to play as one unit and merge their minds. And at their best, the Grateful Dead were doing that. And I think that's what we're getting here. These guys, they have their language and their way of being together pretty well in hand by now. And we're hearing the result of that they could really cover some ground without having to work it out deeply ahead of time. That's how good they are.
You can tell. I mean, when I was watching that first set, I've seen them a few times, but with the way Nugs has the cameras up on stage, you feel like you're on stage with them at times. And they had that shot where Mayer is looking at Chimenti, and he's just like, you feel like you're Jeff on the piano and John Mayer's looking at you. I was like, oh my God, you could really kind of feel that they're communicating with each other, So it doesn't surprise me that Mayer is able to say, hey, we're going to do They Love Each Other up tempo, without even practicing it beforehand. And they're just able to nail it because they have that great communication with each other.
And Gavin, since you mentioned the splendid job Nugs.net is doing, this might be a good time to interject our little plug for Nugs.net. They are bringing you these amazing high quality HD or 4K webcasts. Some of you are seeing it for free on Facebook Live or YouTube. But you can also see the whole show by going to livedead.co and purchasing the whole show. If you only saw the preview of the first set or what we're doing right now, you can purchase the show, go back and watch the whole thing, and have 48 hours to watch it as many times as you want. And you can also buy a package of the entire tour. So a pretty good deal. And we've gone on at length about all the other features that Nugs.net offers. So let's get back to our guest, shall we?
Absolutely. Well, Gavin, tell us a bit about yourself. I know you grew up in Cincinnati. You've been a DeadHead for a while. How did you become a DeadHead, and how did you become a music teacher in Texas?
Well, I mean, most of the music that I listened to as a kid was because of my brother, my older brother. He got me into the Doors, the Who, the Grateful Dead at a very, very early age, and I think it was I was in 8th grade. It was 1988, and I think one of the last. It might have been the last day of school, and a bunch of us got tickets for the Grateful Dead concert in Cincinnati, and we all went. We went down there, and I was just blown away. I think that was the last time the Grateful Dead were actually invited to play in Cincinnati. But it was Dead and Company, of course, have played since, but I think that was the last time the Grateful Dead played. But it was a fantastic show. Just fell in love with them. And then in high school, I started playing with a Grateful Dead cover band, and they were all in their 40s, and I was like 15, 16 years old. And we would just play at least weekly at all these CD bars throughout Cincinnati, and that's when I just started playing all the Grateful Dead tunes, and it's just been part of my life ever since. I went to Vanderbilt, and I got a degree. It's called music arts, which is kind of a combination of theory and composition and history, a little bit of everything. And I played in a couple cover bands in Nashville, and we did a bunch of Grateful Dead tunes. And when I came down to Austin with my wife, I was working as an outreach supervisor for Parks and Rec out in this neighborhood in Southeast Austin. And the elementary school I was working with, the music teacher was leaving, and the principal knew that I was a musician. I didn't have my teaching certificate, but she let me start, and this was in 2000, and just began teaching music. And at the beginning, I was writing a lot of music for the choir, and then I kind of started moving to classic rock tunes. And then you already heard the story about how we started doing the Dead stuff.
So you started teaching and circled back and got your credential or whatever you needed so you could make it official. And
I went to night school. Works. Yeah, you go to night school. You get like it's while you're teaching, and it's about a year-long program just to get your certificate. I had my degree in music, but I didn't have my I didn't have a degree or a teaching certificate. So that's what I did my first year. Yeah, it was crazy. I also want to mention I don't recommend it.
Yeah. I also want to mention that Gavin texted me a wonderful little video of his daughter dancing to Deal at the end of the set we just heard.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that was totally wonderful. You've indoctrinated the kid.
Yeah, she's been listening to the Grateful Dead. The Dead is played in the car in the house all the time, And of course, she's been to a bunch of choir shows. And so I would say probably 80 to 85% of the tunes that we do at choir shows are Dead tunes. So she's heard them all. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been amazed. Several friends of mine have raised Deadhead kids. And Deadhead grandchildren. And I'm a single guy myself, but I got to turn my niece and nephew onto the music when they were very young, and the enthusiasm with which kids take to this music. My brother told me a story before she ever saw her first show. I think when my niece was about 6 years old, she was riding in the back of my dad's car, and he had Live Dead on, and Feedback came on. And some of the weirdest music the Grateful Dead ever recorded. And she said,
Right.
"Dad, what's this?" And he said, "It's the Grateful Dead." And she said, "I like it." And I said, That's a relative of mine for sure. So
Absolutely.
I was very proud at that moment.
Yeah.
You should mention
I mean, Abby.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead, Dave.
No,
I'm sorry.
No, talk about Abby.
I mean, Abby is she's fantastic. She definitely loves listening to all different kinds of music, but she'll say things like that when something comes on that I think she would absolutely hate, and she'll be like, "Dad, that's awesome. I love it." And even today, like during when they were doing the set closer, when they were playing Deal, they came in they were out, my wife and Abby were out shopping, and Abby just came in and just started like twirling around the room. So yeah, she'll be ready for her first show in a few years.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, we've run out of questions to ask you. Why don't you talk about the Grateful Dead and what makes the Grateful Dead so wonderful to you, and how you feel about the history of it and how it's feeding into the current moment here?
Wow. Well, for me, I've always been in the tunes. I mean, I love, the improvisation. I love the free form. I love all that. But for me, I fell in love with American Beauty and Working Man's Dead. Those are probably the first two that really stuck with me, just like the songs and the harmonies and the stories. And it's just when I put on the Grateful Dead, I know how the Grateful Dead is different for everybody, but for me, it's soothing. It doesn't matter what song it is. If I'm feeling, anxious, or I'm having a rough day, and I get home and I just put the Grateful Dead on the radio or my CD player, just chills me out. It just relaxes me. And and there's some very, very dark tunes, but it's just like the sound that they produced and Dead and Company is producing now is just very soothing for me. And I think especially right now with what's going on in the world, we need more of that. And I think that, it's definitely been helping me, and I'm sure it's helping others.
It's exactly what I was hoping to get from you, a personal observation about what this music does for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like that you mentioned the fact that they can go to dark places too, because that's something I've also utterly respected about them from the very beginning. And on this tour, the happy songs have more resonance because we need them so badly, but they've also been
Right.
doing things like Death Don't Have No Mercy, which they started playing for the first time on this tour. A Hard Rain's Gonna Fall.
Rain.
Yeah.
Rolling Stones.
A great Black Peter last night. So they are maintaining that Grateful Dead ethos of giving you the whole spectrum, and I love that.
It's curious. I wonder how. I mean, I'm sure you guys know, but at the beginning of each tour, did they sit down with all the tunes that they've played, and they're like, okay, let's add these. Like, how do they decide? I mean, that would be a fly on the wall on those conversations when they decide, like, what tunes to add for this tour, and the discussions they have be fascinating.
I don't have any info on that. I get together on a clean and well organized way, because we know the traditions as well as the material and the sort of protocols, of how to do it interactively, and that it involves a huge amount of listening as well as expressing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to experience that. I played with so many different Grateful Dead cover bands over the last 3-4 years. It's always fun to bring the choir. The choir arrangements are challenging because a lot of these guys have been playing these Dead tunes and these cover bands, the original way for years and years and years, and all of a sudden, they have to play. They have to play one, like Cumberland Blues in, 3 half steps down, and that's tricky, right? Because all the positions that they're used to, and then I have little stops and little hits and little changes, and in David, all about this. But when it all comes together, it just really puts a big smile on my face, and I look. And David, when you played with the choir, usually I look up at you and you have this big smile on your face, because I hope that it's just like a fresh perspective on some of these tunes.
That's exactly what it is. I love being up there with the kids because their energy is so huge. But I also, this music is about. I told you on one occasion there are some songs in which I know 3 different versions. Because I know the regular Grateful Dead version in their key and their groove, and then I know like the version that I worked up with Stephen Inglis in Fragile Thunder, which is a more acoustic thing. And then there's my solo version, and then there's the version that you guys do. So there's some songs I have to know in 3 different keys and stuff. I love.
I'm so sorry.
That I love. No, I love being put into a position to like visit this stuff from a different perspective, to hear the kids sing it and to play it in different grooves and in different keys. You come back to the other versions of the song
Faster
with
tempos.
New information. Well, that's part of it.
Yeah.
That's part of it.
David has cursed me out several times on stage.
No.
Slow the F down.
I have not. Oh,
come on. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
All right. Well, since you brought it up, Gavin, I will bust your chops about this. He will send out rehearsal tapes where he'll play the song through. Yes. And he's in such a hurry to get it over with that he speeds up. So I'll be sitting
because
at
the
home
kids
playing
are coming
along
in.
with this
The kids are coming
tape.
in.
Right. And as I'm playing, it just gets faster and faster and faster. And I have literally called him up and cursed at him and said, "Would you give me a rehearsal tape? Use a click track, please." Because it's
wow.
It's been fun. Huge fun.
Even in the Barton Hills Choir, the tempo wars go on. It's amazing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But,
I've gotten better. I've gotten better with that.
Yeah. Yeah. But so we were told 5 out of the 6 band members are on stage, so we could get the cue to lights any moment, Gavin. Let's thank you now and then keep talking, because it's been great having you on.
Thank you for having me.
I've been very enlightened by what the two of you have had to say about the choir's process and your own experiences with Grateful Dead music. I've had that experience for a very long time as a player and as a fan. And Dead and Company just continues to surprise me, which is just after all these years. And they continue to surprise each other. I'd love to see the new guys surprising Bobby and Billy and Mickey, and pushing them in new directions. So that's what this is about. We have 6 band members on stage. We don't have lights yet. So we are at that final moment before the band walks on.
It could happen. And let's remind everybody, if you're interested in the Barton Hills Choir, and I highly recommend that you should be, go to their Facebook page and subscribe, follow the page, and then you'll be notified when Gavin is making some more copies of their Grateful Dead records available. And you can donate stamps and office supplies to help them with that. They give the records away. And you definitely want to hear them. I recommend them very highly. So please follow the page of the Barton Hills Choir on Facebook for further information.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Thank you for that.
Check out those wonderful videos on YouTube as well, including those ones made in pandemic mode with everyone playing in a different place. It's really quite a marvel. So
Yes.
thank you so much, Gavin. And
let's give
once again,
maybe we should give a quick shout out to the Rock and Roll Playhouse as well. We collaborated with them a couple of times in our travels. And that's another endeavor that's bringing kids and great music together in amazing ways. And I hope we get
and
to
the
do
wonderful
something with
Adam
them again.
Roberts. Yes. Yeah. Those guys are fantastic. And I think we're going to do something again with them in the future, hopefully.
Oh,
yeah, they're fantastic.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I'm looking forward to that. Great. Well, now we're vamping until we get the lights out cue. And we should remind people they can go to livedead.co to convert this free preview into a paid stream and watch the whole show. And you can go back. If you do that right now, you can go back to the beginning and watch the first set that you missed. And you have 48 hours to watch the whole thing if you just buy today's thing. And you might also want to look at audio download possibilities and subscribing to the entire stream so you can watch this entire tour in HD or 4K on nugs.net, which is how we're seeing all of this right now. And thank you again for being part of it. Is
that getting better every year, that the Nugs live stream, the amount of cameras? I mean, I'm blown away by that, by what I experienced.
Yeah, we've talked about this, how, and we think about the days when the Grateful Dead were first starting to get into video just to project on the screens at the larger venues, and how, the cameras weren't very good in low light, and they only had like maybe 3 cameras in the pit, and now modern technology and the skill with which people put these broadcasts together has just increased so much, and you wish that was around in 1967, at the Fillmore or Avalon, but the fact that we have it now is wonderful. And it's really changed the art. It's changed the way people receive and enjoy music. So may there be more of this in the future.
I was trying to count the different camera angles. I got to like 10 and I was just like, it's got to be like at least 15. I mean, there's like a camera, stationary camera pretty much on each member, and then there's cameras on sliders, and there's, it's beautiful.
And they show the lights are out. We gotta go. Thank you, everybody.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you, Gavin Tabone. Enjoy the show, everybody.